Hi, fellow female activists and any newbies. Cathy here, your wellness coach. And we are here for our wellness playlist, and we are talking about our movement pillar, and in particular, be okay with your where you're at. Okay, so be okay with where you're at right now, presently, in your body. And we always start our wellness and recommendation playlist with what I call positive quotient repetitions, PQ reps. So whether you're sitting, standing, laying down, doesn't matter. But what I would ask, if you are, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. If you don't want to, that's fine. But what I will want you to do is I want you to think about having a nice tall spine. So elongate that spine and roll your shoulders back so you have a nice open chest. If you are safe and you feel so okay doing, go ahead and close your eyes. And what we're going to do is we're going to notice the sounds, if you're able, furthest away from you. So any sounds that you hear, what is the furthest away you can hear? And just put some curiosity into that. Now, listen to the closest sound you can hear, if you're able. Now, even if you're laying down, go ahead and place your feet firmly on whatever surface they touch. And what I want you to do is concentrate on the four corners of your feet. Even if you have shoes on, really drill into the surface that they are flat on. And notice the energy, the muscles necessary to do so. Now, pick your toes up. Even if you have shoes on, you can pick your toes up, hopefully, and then spread those toes. Meanwhile, your feet are still planted, right? And then drop the toes down, still spread. And notice how much energy now you have. You feel grounded, right? Even more so than you were just moments before you picked up those toes. You should feel, even if you're perfectly steady and supported, you can still feel all of those muscles, all those tendons in your feet stabilizing you. And now, if your eyes are closed, go ahead and open them and blink them open. That simple PQ rep session is a perfect example of how you drop yourself into your body again. You may be frazzled, you may be feeling very discombobulated. I love that word. Um, but there are ways to quickly, even if it's just breathing for like taking a sigh in itself is a perfect example of a PQ rep, but it's a universal way that all humans center themselves. It can be really that simple. So thank you for that. All right, so today's pillar we're talking about is movement. And specifically, we're talking about be okay with where you're at. So most of my followers here are perimenopause and menopause and post. I am postmenopause. That is so awesome. I am so proud that one, I've made it this far to even have that opportunity. Okay. But two, you know, I admit, even as a wellness coach, I wasn't necessarily so awesome to my body over the really last, say, 7, close to 8 years, and it showed up. So it goes to show you that everyone's on their own journey, even the wellness coaches, right? But with that said, I always did have my best intentions, right? But now I am, post-menopause, and I'm cool with that. But more importantly, I recognize that my body is not going to be the same that it was when I was 25. And I am totally okay with that. Again, I bring a whole bunch of humbleness and pride that I am still alive. Okay. Many people that I know and love are not here anymore. And so, first, be very grateful. Okay. And that might sound selfish for me to say. Maybe you could say I'm coming from a privileged point of view. But if you're still alive and you're listening to this, be humbled and be proud because many people that you know did not get to this point. And I bring that into focus because all of us are going to end up, okay? We were brought into this life and we will end, okay, at some point, some sooner than others. And it it it's very onus on everyone to realize that what we do in this life, this one beautiful life, it matters. You don't have to be quote unquote famous to make a difference in the world. Maybe you made someone smile the other day. Maybe they were helping you, right, at a vendor, and you said thank you and they smiled. That matters, all right? Every moment of our life matters, to include when we're able to move our bodies in any which way. This video, it wants to remind you that be okay where you're at. I've always been hypermobile, okay? And what that means is that I've always been flexible. And so much so, though, that it can cause issues. And one time it did. I overstretched, and the next morning, figured out where my groin area was because I couldn't move. I literally had to quite literally like fall out of bed because it hurt so much just to even turn or twist, right? My torso. Good example of learning how anatomy works. So I was still fairly young, okay? I was probably still in my late 20s, I remember. And it was hilarious because I had to basically just let myself fall little by little to one side, and then I had to literally almost fall out of bed so that my feet would touch the ground so that I could finally sit up. My groin had been overstretched and, took a long time to get back to what would be normal for me. And I say that because that happened when I was young, when I had a ton of estrogen, when I was nice and spongy with all that nice, flexibility. Fast forward now, I don't have so much estrogen at all, right? Um, or progesterone or any other type of, reproductive hormone. Everything is slowing down. And guess what? I'm okay with that. So my sponginess that I had back then, it's not quite the same anymore. And I'm okay with that. One, I know that I'm not supposed to be the same I was when I was in my 20s. And I also give myself grace because guess what? I am still flexible. Maybe not as much, but I can still get around and I can still get into, seemingly what some people might say are, difficult yoga poses. But nonetheless, I have a certain amount of mobility, and that's wonderful. I'm not going to compare myself to what I was in the 20s or the 30s or the 40s. Why? Because I am here now in this moment, and who I am now is not going to be the same 10 minutes from now. It's not going to be the same that I was 10 years ago. When we think about movement, right, we start to maybe, again, because people who are watching this video are probably my age. I'm a Gen Xer. And so we might be, belittling ourselves. Oh, I can't believe I can't do this or that anymore. Guess what? Be proud of what you can do and imagine that maybe you're not going to have the same type of level of expertise you once had, but guess what? You might have expertise growing in some other shape or form. So for me, I know that I aspire to have as much muscle as possible going forward. That is my only quest in life, to be mobile and to have a ton of muscle. Like, I want to be so strong. That's actually always been my goal from the time I went into the gym until now. I've always wanted, and I've been, um, you know, what you'd call a gym blossom since I was in college. I mean, I've always been into health and fitness, so I've always moved my body, right? Um, but I never actually realized how important resistance training was until very much later on in life. So, like literally in my 40s. Well, I wouldn't say that. I was lifting in college, but yeah, I guess I've always been. Okay, so I take that back. I've always known the importance of being strong, but I didn't know how important being strong was until I got more educated on it. And that didn't happen until my 40s. Okay. So, yes, I was lifting weights since college ever on. Okay. But then I added a different movement. So I learned to swim. Well, I've always learned to swim, but how to, I had a former friend who taught me the four different strokes. Well, we didn't go into butterfly. I saw no reason to go into the butterfly stroke, but I learned, how to properly, you know, breaststroke, um, freestyle, and then what are the other ones? Oh, back. Yeah, the back stroke. So I incorporated swimming. That was awesome. Um, Started running, right? Now all I do is walk for the most part when it comes to cardio. But I am now going to add weight to the cardio. I'm going to get a weighted vest. I'm going to maybe add ankle weights. Like I'm going to perform what I can, and then I add resistance as much as possible. So will I, ever run a marathon? Who knows? Maybe I will. I ran a half marathon. So I know I can run. Anyone can run if they just train. What I'm getting at is that your movement is not going to look the same as it did again at any other point in time. What I want though is in my last breath, if I'm given that opportunity, I want to be able to have all my organs, I want to have all my original body parts working when I leave this earth. And in order to have that happen, I get to work diligently every day, but my uh, body is going to change every day. Okay. And so that means that I get to meet it where it's at and not punish it, not degrade it, but simply say, okay, what are we going to do today, body? And be proud at the end of whatever movement I get completed and know that I did what I could. That's what matters. Movement is our body's natural way to get around, quite literally. Like if you're in any way, shape, or form able to move, that is our body's way of moving from point A to point B. Okay. With that said, how we move matters, and we want to be as efficient and we want to be as careful as we can at any stage in life because longevity is the idea, right? That's the goal. And we want to have as much mobility, as much flexibility. We want to have longevity in the right way. So with that, again, be okay with where you're at right now because it's going to change tomorrow and then it's going to be different a month from now. It'll be different 6 months from now, so on and so on. You will be amazed at what type of progress you make, depending on what your goal is, if you're just consistent. You know, consistency is the most boring concept, but is the most useful. Consistency in any goal is the secret sauce. And it's the secret sauce that most in the fitness industry don't want to say anything about because you can't sell something as boring as consistency. But what I bring to you is honesty and the truth. I bring you the fact that if you're just consistent and you might want to get guidance on how to be consistent because I am the guru when it comes to consistency. But any amount of growth happens through consistency. That's it. There is no secret sauce. There is no item you can buy. There is no program you can buy other than learning how to become consistent. Now, yes, someone can teach you how to be more consistent, but it's up to you. And I know you can do it. So, movement, totally awesome. And where you are today is not going to be where you are in the future. And it's not where you were 20 years ago, but any movement counts. So make it efficient, but make it count. And it all does count. So with that, remember that at the end of every month, we have a free live yoga clinic or flow here on this channel. And I'd love to see you there. Until next time, take care, take charge.